I'm tying up another wet fly from Ray Bergman's book, Trout, and this is the Hofland's Fancy. That's a Hofland, Hofland's Fancy. Simple fly, no tag, rib on this, some brown hackle for a tail and rib, dark claret for the floss, and some light brown mottled turkey for the wing. It's an excellent little fly if you're getting into tying wet flies, and I think it's a pretty good producing fly. I think it matches a number of different things in the water, and I think that it would be fun to fish as well as to tie. So that's the Hofland's Fancy. I'll get started tying. I'm going to start the Hofland's Fancy with my hook on the vise. This is a Mustad 33.99 in a size 6, the standard wet fly hook. I debarb that hook and attach my thread. There is a dark claret floss body on this. I don't want to darken it up anymore, so I'm going to start with a Danville 70 denier in white as an underbody or an underlayer for that floss, so that it will help to keep some of that color. I've already applied some wax to my thread. There's no tag on this, and there's no rib. So I've got a tail of some brown hackle, and then the floss body. I'm going to stop with my thread just past the point of the hook. We're going to tie in the tail. The tail is just some brown hackle. You could use some, like a rooster saddle hackle or cape or something like that for something stiffer if you want. I'm just going to use some brown schlappen. So I've got a feather here. I'm going to maybe about 1/4 of an inch or so. It doesn't have to be a whole lot. We're not really looking to have a real thick tail on this. I'm going to get my barbs evened out, evening up the tips there perpendicular to the rachis and peel that off. Then I'm going to clump those together. I'm going to tie that in so they're about a shank length, maybe a little bit longer than a shank length behind the body. Wrapping rearward, I'll come down to almost the very end of the body. If the butt ends here are sticking out past the body, you want to trim that back so that they're inside the body there. Now I'm going to attach my floss. I'm using a Danville 4-strand Rayon. This is a wine color that the Danville has, even though the recipe calls for a dark claret. I do not have a dark claret. The claret that I have is a little lighter than this. I don't know. I'll have to see if I don't think Danville has a distinction there in terms of the dark claret versus the wine color. A lot of these wet flies and other classic flies that are out there, you'll find it's difficult. The recipe will call for this shade or that shade of a certain material, and the manufacturers may not even make it in that shade anymore. So you get something that's close. You know, this is like I said, they call it a wine color, but you could consider it a dark claret. And attach that, pulling my butt ends back within the body. Start wrapping forward. I'm going to get some more wax on my thread to help collect all this down and control it. I'll wrap my thread forward, collecting all of that down to the hook shank, so I have a nice smooth underbody here. Once I get that thread down here at the end of the body, I'll apply that floss for the body. Secure that floss in. Trim away the excess. I'll bring my thread forward. Now I'll change over to my black thread. This is a Danville 70 denier in black. Already got some wax on that thread. So I'll wrap this in, trimming away the tag end and the white thread. The rest of the Hofland's Fancy is the wing, which is a light brown mottled turkey. This particular feather is kind of nice because I have a darker side to it and a lighter side to it. I've already cut those slips. So I'm going to match those up. Take those off. Now I want to match the tips first. I want to make certain that both the tips are the same length. They don't extend off of each other. Sometimes these turkey tips can get kind of ragged too, but it's serviceable. Once I have that done, I'm going to take a look at the width of each of the slips. I think the one on my side is a little bit wider. So I'm going to take a couple of those barbs out, maybe just one. And I'll take a couple. Peel those out. Now my wing is ready to be tied in. Secure that in with a few more wraps, and we will take a look at what we got here. Not too bad. The tips, like I said, on this are kind of, this particular feather has some good sections where the tips stay together pretty well, and this one, they're not. And actually, this one slip on this side, if you look, is shorter than the other, so I did not do a very good job of matching those tips up. We can unwrap that, slide that tip out a little bit. There we go, and match that up a little bit better. You can usually, if you have to, unwrap these slips 2 or 3 times if you have to realign them or whatnot, and then tie those in again. After that, I find after 4 or 5 times, and it just seems they kind of start to fall apart. Curing that in, we'll take a look. As I was saying, the tips on these are just a little bit ragged. I mean, they're serviceable for a fishing fly. And sometimes that's just the feathers. What I find, especially with the turkey, they can be kind of hit or miss in terms of the quality of the tips. Thing is if you're buying online, a lot of times you're, at the whim of what it is that they send you. Hopefully you can develop a bit of a relationship with people and they'll know what you're looking for. If you go into a shop, don't hesitate to look at all of the different feathers they have on the rack or on the peg or whatever to find the ones that have, nice tips or coloring or whatever it is you're looking for. These are natural materials, so it's kind of tough to get quality control on that. The collar on this is just a brown hackle. I'm using some brown hen here. I'm going to tie that in by the tip, not the very tip. I'm a little bit further in because I want some wax on my thread. I want to start out with a little bit of those longer barbs. Wrap my thread down to behind the eye here. Take my hackle pliers and we'll put in about 4 wraps. But I want to start right here. Those first barbs that come out, I want to be a little bit longer. Not quite as long as they need to be, but if I started right at the very tip of that feather, then they would be too short. I'll get my 4 wraps in, securing that with my thread. I'll sweep this back and start making the head of the fly as I wrap the thread in and move rearward. Again, wax on your thread is going to help you to grip the thread as well as the materials. It just gives you better thread control. Once you get to the rear portion of the head, you can pop that off. You could use a softer hen hackle if you want more of a kind of a look of like a soft hackle fly. Smoothing that head off a little bit, I'm going to bring it to the back here. Flatten that out a little and put in my whip finish. Putting away my thread, I'm going to put some head cement on there. This is some fly-tight head cement. It's a thinner head cement that will soak right down into those thread wraps a little bit to hold that together. Now I will come back and put a couple coats of a clear lacquer on here, and then one final coat of the black lacquer just to get the head of that looking rather shiny and handsome. But that is the Hofland's Fancy. Handsome little fly, fun to tie. Thanks for watching today. Thank you for joining me at the Vise today. I hope you learned a new pattern, at least a tip or trick here and there. If you'd like to help Dress Irons, you can like, comment, share, subscribe, all those wonderful things for the video. You can also head out to dressedirons.com where you can buy flies, tools, stickers, and merch. Or you can join a growing community over on Locals at the Dressed Irons Fly Tying Guild. You can also donate to Dressed Irons if you want through the link at the bottom of the description. I thank everybody for their ongoing support, as it really does help the creation of these videos. But what's important is to remember, only fly tying. If you're not having fun, you're doing it wrong.